Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing today? I am doing so fine. I'm just sitting here in my living room trying to figure out what I want to do with this Legends of Radio cassette tape series that I have here. I love this. I purchased this, I think, around 2012 from Radio Spirits. Radio Spirits used to be a radio station that I listened to. Wow, I started listening to Radio Spirits, I think, in the 90s. It used to come on one of those off radio stations on the AM dial. And then I think it made its way to the FM dial, like during a really weird time once a week. And that is where they would play little radio shows from like the 40s. Bob Hope had a lot of radio shows in the 40s, and this series is one that pays tribute to the Bob Hope show. And let me open this up. I love this so much. I don't have a modern cassette player. I have a really old cassette player that's probably from maybe the early 90s. It's really old. And it's the kind of cassette player that's used when you are transcribing recordings. So, when you open it up, I really like this. This is so interesting. I'm so into this kind of stuff. I'm kind of an old soul. I've always liked this kind of stuff. Bob Hope, Lucille Ball. My great-grandmother, my great-grandmother used to love Bob Hope. And I used to watch TV with her. So here are the cassette tapes. And this is a series here. I think there are about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 24 cassette tapes in here. And let me see if I can close this up. This is something I actually really treasure. And it came with, came with this little Radio Spirits program guide here. Can y'all see that? It's really neat. This is a collector's edition that I have here. And this talks about, so apparently I bought this in October 2011. This is the new collections. It has new collections on the front, okay, that I could have ordered back then. But I love Bob Hope, so I got the one with Bob Hope in it. And when you open up the magazine, it just talks about the various collections that were available during that time for purchase. And look, get this. There's a $2.95 flat fee to have this shipped. It's right there on the back of there. So let's see what's inside of this one. So this talks about the Fred Allen show. There was a Fred Allen radio show, I guess back in the 40s. This one has Fibber McGee and Molly. Some of you older folks out there will know about that show. Burns and Allen, okay, collection that was up for purchase back then. Duffy's Tavern. I've never heard of Duffy's Tavern. Okay, this one, let's see, that's more about Duffy's Tavern. Okay, and this just lists various other collections that were up for grabs. Check out this magazine. Can y'all see that? Any of that? So interesting. So interesting. And right here on the front, let's see, we have Dark Fantasy, Christmas Radio Classics, The Fred Allen Show, Fibber McGee and Molly, and Fort Laramie. Okay. This is, you know, back in the day before TV was out, this was like the thing. This was TV. This was like bigger than TV. It was huge. And so my great-grandmother was born in the early 1900s. So she used to love to watch all of these old actors and actresses. And when I was a child, I used to watch TV with her, and she would watch stuff like Gunsmoke and Big Valley and Price is Right. She loved Bob Barker, and so I got to see all of these old actors and actresses from back in the day, and I just kind of fell in love with them. Well, in this series that I have here, again, it's called The Legends of Radio, and on the front of it says, "Thanks for the memory." And when Bob Hope was still alive, there's actually a foreword in the front of this little book by Bob Hope, okay? And it says, it talks about in Bob Hope's own words. There's quite a few. Let's see how many pages there are. There's a couple of pages. Well, he wrote this entire book, but I'm going to read the first couple of pages to you all so y'all can get a feel for why I am in love with these old radio classics. I just love listening to them on the radio whenever I can catch them. I think Radio Spirits is still around. But in Bob Hope's own words, he says, "Contrary to what you may have heard, Macaroni did not invent the radio, so I would have work after vaudeville. It was Ben Franklin and his kite and electricity. You remember radio, TV without eye strain? A great man hailed radio as the theater of the mind, and indeed it was, and much more. In the 1930s and 40s, radio was king. It was not a media, it was the media. It made the world a smaller place. It was a fast news source. It informed, and it was eBay without visuals. Literally, it was sponsor heaven and the promoter's paradise. But most of all, it was entertainment. Soap operas, kiddie shows, plays, sketches, variety shows, quiz shows, mysteries, westerns, music, and comedy. Big name comedians, Fred Allen, Milton Berle, Jack Benny and George Burns, and Gracie Allen, just for starters. I used to love to watch Milton Berle on anything. Any of y'all out there remember him? Bob Hope says in his own words, "My first radio stint came in 1932 while I was doing a personal appearance with Bing Crosby at the Capitol Theater in New York. One of the biggest names on the radio back then was Major Bowes, who asked me to be on his Capitol Comedy Hour. A few months into 1933, I got the role of Huckleberry Haynes in the big Broadway hit, Roberta, followed by a not-so-big hit, Say When, in 1934. The show ran for 16 weeks and closed without a whimper." Wow. So landing the Bromo Seltzer Intimate Review on NBC in 1935 was most welcomed by me, and although she never mentioned it, by my wonderful wife, Dolores. I paused to give some credit for getting the show by appearing on the Rudy Valley show. Y'all remember Rudy Valley? I think he had an appearance in, did he have an appearance in Grease, or did they just mention his name in Grease? I think they just mentioned him. He goes, "Oh yes, there was also the Atlantic Oil program. I don't know exactly when I did it, but I know I got paid in cans of motor oil." Wow. Okay, so back to Rudy Valley. Okay, I got that mixed up. He was in the show, it wasn't a show, it was a musical called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It's a Broadway musical. Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite movies to watch. It came out, I believe, in the 60s, and I think there might have been like they redid it. Like I think right now it's in a theater right now, maybe in Maryland, or it was in a theater in Maryland. But it's such a great movie. You have to be able to tolerate musicals to enjoy this, to enjoy that play though, or to enjoy that movie. I love musicals. He says in 1937, I gained a contract with NBC for 26 weeks on the Woodbury Soap Show. I resigned the radio contract for weekly broadcasts through 1956. My television contract with NBC began with a variety special on Easter Sunday in 1950 and lasted until 1997. 60 years with one network. Wow. And all because I saw the president of the company come out of that motel with that woman. But seriously, he says, I entered the race for Hooper ratings in 1938 as host and producer of the Bob Hope Pepsodent Show on NBC. My time slot was Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock. It didn't take long to settle into a good working comedy variety format for the show. First and foremost, there was always a live audience. Do y'all remember those, watching those series back then? You'd hear I don't think it was a laugh track. I think they were actually recording in front of a live studio audience, and you'd hear the audience laughing. If you watch some older episodes of the Flintstones, you'll actually hear a laugh track in the background. It's so weird to hear people laughing on cartoons, but it was a thing back then. So he goes, first and foremost, there was always a live audience, preferably one that understood English, but that's another story. It's hard to get laughs from an empty room. There was a cast of regulars to provide the comedy. Professor Jerry Colonna, I was his straight man. Vera Vague, who had a voice that could curl toes, played a character that was man-hungry and insulting, and audiences loved her. Blanche Stewart and Alvina Allman, who played Brenda and Corbina, socialites with a hillbilly twist. Frank Fontaine, Irene Ryan, Jack Kirkwood, and Honey Child, Wilder, just to name a few. I've never really heard of any of them, but I bet you I've seen them in something. He goes, and there was music, always music. Singers Judy Garland, both a regular and a guest star. I'll watch anything with Judy Garland in it. I love Judy Garland. She had a wonderful voice. Gloria Jean, Doris Day. Doris Day is one of my favorite actresses. She's very close to being number one, but I think Lucille Ball is number one, and then Doris Day. So he says Doris Day, and of course, Frances Langford, plus some of the best bands in the country. Al Goodman, followed by Red Nichols, Skinny Ennis, Stan Kenton, Desi Arnaz, that's Lucille Ball's husband, and finally Les Brown and his band of renown. With radio, the announcers were stars in their own right. I had the best: Wendell Niles, Art Baker, Larry Keating, Bill Goodwin, and I guess that's how you pronounce it, H-Y, Averback. They were both pitchmen they were both pitchmen and ploys for my comedy. Come to think about it, I was their straight man too. There were also two important elements that really made the show work. The first was a stable, usually around two, of excellent comedy writers who were with me early on and stayed for the long run, including Ted McKay, Al Schwartz, Sherwood Schwartz, I've heard that name before, Mel Shabelson, Norm Sullivan, Fred S. Fox, Hal Block, and Al Josephsberg. Okay, last page. There are many pages. I get excited reading this stuff, but I'll just read one more page. He goes, second, there was a host of top name guest stars. Bing Crosby, love Bing Crosby. Dude could really sing. So Bing Crosby and I exchanged spots and insults on each other's shows, like with Jimmy Durante and the great and lovable Jack Benny. Y'all remember Jimmy Durante with the nose? I think he was known for that nose. And just about every female co-star in my film came to the show. Lucille Ball, that's my girl. Dorothy Lamour, Paulette Goddard, and Jane Russell, love all of them. I really applaud the sampling of guest stars selected by Radio Spears for inclusion on this collection, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. My greatest reward from radio was getting to know the best audience in the world, our men and women in uniform. On May 16, 1941, I entertained my first GI audience at March Airfield, California. What an experience, what a reception for a ham like me. That one show became a lifelong career. It gave me a whole new outlook on life, a new purpose for entertaining. All during World War II, NBC let me take my radio show to entertain servicemen and women at bases and military installations throughout the United States and Europe and the South Pacific. Do y'all remember, what's her name? Oh my gosh, her name escapes me. She was a pin-up girl in the 40s, and she was known for her legs. Oh my goodness. I just watched one of her movies not too long ago. Can't think of her name. Maybe he'll mention her name in here. He goes, before my monologue on each broadcast, I would open with something like, this is Bob Camp Pendleton Hope, saying that if you want to help out our boys in blue, send them some socks and kisses too. At the close of each radio broadcast was a tribute and a measure or two of thanks for the memory. Y'all remember that song? This collection includes some of my fondest memories of show business. I hope you'll enjoy this trip back in time with me. Y'all, this is just so entertaining. Sometimes I just put these, because it's been a long time since I've actually listened to these cassettes. But when I put them on and I just listen to the corny jokes and how people just bust out laughing like it's the funniest thing they've ever heard, it's so silly, but the stuff is so clean and so entertaining that I just really, really, really love it. I love Lucille Ball too. I have everything Lucille Ball. The whole every season of I Love Lucy, then the shows she did after that, some of her movies. Bob Hope was named Entertainer of the Century, according to this booklet. And so the programs here, let's see, just to name a few. Well, it just talks about his guest stars, okay? Blondie and Dagwood, y'all remember them? Judy Garland, Basil Rathbone, Hedda Hopper. She was known for the crazy hats that she wore. They would have like fruit and stuff like that in there. Humphrey Bogart, I love that name, so cool. Betty Davis. Betty Davis was a hot mess. I mean, she could just be so evil with a smile on her face. She was a great actress. She actually went to acting school with Lucille Ball. So they got their start together somehow back in the day. Rita Hayworth and Dorothy Lamour, Veronica Lake, Paulette Goddard, Orson Welles. I saw him in a movie not too long ago. It was that movie, oh my gosh, he did a fabulous job. Oh my goodness. I can't remember. It was some random movie that I turned the TV and it was on, but it was really good. Cary Grant, Gary Cooper, Ginger Rogers. She was a dancing machine back in the day. She could tap dance like no other. She was right up there with Fred Astaire. She used to do a lot of dance routines with him. Edward G. Robinson. And the list goes on and on and on. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, Jimmy Durante. So these are just to name a few of the people that Bob Hope did his radio shows with back in the 40s. I have 40 episodes here of his radio show, 20 hours of listening pleasure. I might try to just somehow see if I can get these preserved so that they don't get messed up. I mean, I guess if I keep them in this container here, they'll be okay. But I just love y'all. I would encourage y'all to watch some of the old movies, and if you can find maybe like on satellite radio some of the old classic radio stations. I know that there's one on Sirius. There is one on Sirius FM, Sirius XM, and it's not called. I don't think it's called Radio Spirits, but it's got a lot of the old classic not talk radio, but radio programs from like the 40s and 50s. You know, like Black Shadow and things like that. Just so interesting. I'm gonna keep this just forever, I guess. I mean, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't. It's a collector's edition. You know, there's still an order. There's an order form here in case I want to order more. I'm sure this is like null and void at this point because this is so old. And I don't know what I paid for this collection, but I'm sure it wasn't a lot because I'm extremely frugal when it comes to some things. But that's just one of the things that I'm into. This is like just something I like, you know. I like old movies and love old black and white movies. Like, love them, love them. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. That's a little info on me and some of the stuff I like to do. Might be a little bit TMI, right? Hold on, y'all. Got my nice fruit punch in here. It's delicious. Anyway, I used to want to be an actress. One time I auditioned for Annie Get Your Gun. I did. And I got a call back. Wait, I didn't get a call back. So I auditioned, and then they had me have a seat. Then they called me back again while I was still there to sing for them again. But someone else got the part, someone who had a much stronger voice. I have a pretty decent voice, but it's not really strong and powerful. So I didn't get the part, but I used to love to want to be an actress, to be on the stage. Oh my gosh. Maybe that's why I enjoy this so much, because it takes me there, you know. It just takes me there. Anyways, y'all, thanks for listening to me ramble on and on about my radio classic cassette tapes that I have here. And I don't know if I have any young people watching this, but I'm going to take one of these tapes out just so you can see what a cassette tape looks like. Because for real, a lot of young people haven't seen them. This is what it looks like, okay? This is what a cassette tape looks like. If there's any young people out there, there's the film inside of there, okay? Y'all remember when these films used to get crinkled up and twisted up and, you know, ripped up and everything else? We have a much better way now to listen to anything and everything. But this is a cassette tape, if I have like any really young people out there. And this one has Humphrey Bogart and Betty Davis on the other side. So, anyways, y'all, I know I'm goofy, but I just wanted to share that. I felt like sharing that because I came across this cassette tape. I had it in a box, and I knew I had it somewhere, and I actually finally found it. And I also found my cassette player. It looks like, it's bigger than this. It looks like a big old yellow lunch box. Like it's actually bigger than a lunch box. It's about this wide from here all the way across. It's huge. It's so huge. It's laughable, actually. Anyways, thank y'all for listening to my silliness tonight, and I hope y'all found some of this to be interesting or entertaining. That's just a little piece of me and my goofiness, my goofy self. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to y'all later, okay? Peace out. Bye-bye.